Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be taking a look at the Sherlock Holmes short story, The Adventure of the Dancing Man. Now, this was the third to appear in the collection known as The Return of Sherlock Holmes, as written by Holmes' creator, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and was originally published in 1903. Now, this is said to be one of Doyle's personal favorites. In retrospect, he went back and compiled a list of 17 of what he thought were his best Holmes works, and this is actually sitting at the number 3 spot, which I think is rather interesting. But essentially this story sees the intrepid Holmes taking up the case of Mr. Hilton Cubitt, who's become greatly concerned for the well-being of his younger wife after some mysterious messages have appeared at their homestead. The messages are in the form of these small hieroglyphs, these stick figures in various strange positions, earning them the name, as the title suggests, the Dancing Men. The messages are a complete and utter mystery to Cubitt himself, but he's convinced that their meaning is known well to his wife because, as he says, she's not had an easy hour since they began. The young woman, Elsie, has made nothing clear to her husband, as before they exchanged vows, she made him promise to accept that her past to that point was to stay now and forever buried, and of course his going to Holmes is kind of a roundabout way of breaking that promise. But as it happens, Holmes takes up the case, as his suspicions and curiosities are piqued, and sends the man away with the order to send any further messages should they come. And what follows is Holmes unraveling the true meaning of these strange little figures and the sinister business they embody, which results in a murder, an attempted suicide, and an arrest. Now, Doyle is a very good and effective writer, and in this particular story, his descriptions of characters' faces and appearances, places, are all vividly and brilliantly detailed. And I particularly like how he writes his dialogue. It has a very natural flow to it, and you rarely question whether these are words being spoken or merely words typed up on a page. And after reading the entirety of the Holmes canon a few times over, I can say this is definitely something he's skilled at. It should also be noted that, as with the majority of his Holmes works, this piece is actually written through the eyes of Holmes's friend and roommate, Dr. John H. Watson. Doyle was said to want to be rid of the character of Holmes, and I think it's rather interesting that his descriptions of Holmes in the story are very warm and vibrant as the character's excitement for the case expounds. The case itself is rather intriguing and keeps you interested, like some of the best episodes of Law & Order, even though there isn't any sort of O. Henry ending, and I personally like how it has mild ties to the late 19th century Chicago mob, in reference to Elsie's past that she wants to keep so desperately buried. Now, some of the issues I had with the story is actually when Holmes is going about revealing his understanding of the Dancing Men as a cipher meant to hide the true intent of each message, and it can become a bit taxing to the reader because, while it's interesting, the methodology of how he decrypted the messages, substituting figures for alphanumerical equivalents, is perhaps a little bit more drawn out than it needs to be. But then again, this is an established character trait of Holmes himself. As well as it might be a little off-putting for those unaccustomed to stories and terminologies from 100 years ago to read such an elaborately written story that doesn't feature such modern conveniences as electricity or cars. Plus the fact that the mystery is not so much to do with the events per se, but more so revolving around the Dancing Men messages themselves. But with that said, by and large, this story is a well-crafted and effectively written tale, and is rather enjoyable. It's definitely one to look at as a jumping-on point for those who are curious and have yet to experience the written Sherlock Holmes stories. And while that's pretty much all I have to say on the story itself, I would also like to note that some of the art pieces that I used for this video are actually the famous works of Sidney Paget, who actually illustrated some of the publications of these stories, and I thought they were rather fitting and would make this a little more interesting. So, but that's going to be all I have to say on this story, and I highly suggest you check out the works of Arthur Conan Doyle in reference to Holmes, and otherwise, I hope this video finds you well. So that'll be it from me, and I'll catch you later. Peace.